You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. This is Making Tracks. Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
That's not true. That's impossible.
Greetings, exalted ones, and the not so exalted ones. Welcome to episode 136 of Making Tracks, brought to you by those fine folk over at fanfortracks.com. My name's Mark, I'm one of your co-hosts, and joining me this week is probably the only man who could possibly ever corrupt the Force to his own will and bend it to make Bendums out of it. It's Mr. Mark Newbold. Mark, how you doing, buddy?
I love Bendums. Always support Bendums, I say.
The unsung hero of Star Wars collecting, I reckon, Bendums.
I wouldn't argue with that.
How's things, dude?
Very busy, but hey, I say that every week. We had Star Wars Fan Fun Day this last weekend just gone. We got 10 interviews.
Oh, wow.
With some great folk. Loads of great stuff coming over the next few weeks. And the collection room shift around continues. I was doing stuff literally before we started recording. That's all go.
Talk about Star Wars Family Fun Day. How was that? Was it busy? Did you pick anything up? Or was it just lots of interviews and hanging out with other fanfers?
It was a weird one because, you know, last year when I was going to events and I was saying, I didn't really pick anything up. And normally I'm buying stuff like willy-nilly. It was another one like that. There was loads of stuff there, but nothing that really grabbed me and nothing that I needed. That was the big thing. But really, the only things I bought was Sean Crawford, Yakface himself.
Yes.
He has a little sort of challenge coin badge thing, and that was really nice. So I picked that up from him just after I interviewed him. And then I saw 2 Phantom Menace key rings. Like metal key rings. And I've got a couple. I got Jar Jar and Anakin, and I saw Obi-Wan and the Queen Starship, like £3 each. And I was like, I want them.
How could you not? Yeah.
So I grabbed them. And that's what I got. What about you?
I got a little bit of a haul from May the 4th, because obviously May the 4th was last week, and Disney Store had the usual spend £20 and you get the Star Wars Disney key. And this year, the Disney Star Wars key does look rather nice. It's like a pewtery gold and silver design, nothing too tacky. One of the things I picked up also was a Christmas Mandalorian and Grogu set of keys. Obviously, because it's Christmas, they're like Christmas jumper kind of designs, so they're just a little bit kitsch and a little bit kind of like tacky. But this one looks really nice, and I'm kind of a bit gutted I only got one, because I'd love to actually have another one out on display. I'm going to not spend tons and tons and tons. You only need to spend £20, but they had a lot of stuff on sale. So I picked up a Book of Boba Fett logo t-shirt for like £7. This is why it's worth sometimes holding off on some of this stuff. It's a Grogu Halloween metal pin, retails for £9, picked it up for £3, so the same price as one of your Phantom Menace things you just picked up. Yeah, and I kind of succumbed also to the peer pressure of having to get more Galaxy's Edge stuff. So I've got the Galaxy's Edge Minoc in the little cardboard case to go with my Kwaku monkey lizard. All in all, not a bad little haul actually for one day. And the good thing about Disney was it was with me 2 days later. You know, so I was like really impressed with the shipping, and you know, it all came really well boxed and packaged up and protected and that. So I was like, I should probably do this more often.
We should all do stuff like that more often. Wait and then pick it up at a cheaper price.
Well, I mean, it is that stuff, isn't it? It's the stuff that you kind of go, well, I mean, I would never have spent £9 on this Grogu pin. If I'd saw it in the store, I would have gone, that's way too expensive. But for that kind of price, it's like, you know, it's going to sit in the drawer of all the other Disney pins. But hey, you know, at least it's not going to break the bank. So, May the 4th, we had a couple of bits of news and a couple of Kenobi-type trailers and posters and that dropped, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a lovely new poster land, very striking poster, sort of married up almost with the poster that came for Disney Gallery, the Book of Boba Fett, which landed on the same day. But that trailer, what did you make of it? I mean, it wasn't a long trailer, it was about 1.5 minutes, which I think at this point of time is probably about the right length. We don't want to give too much away. But you can see straight away the visuals look amazing. They're not giving anything away of the music. They're still playing that sort of Duel of the Fates temp music, which is probably a good thing. What did you make of it?
You know, we've talked about it, haven't we, in the last few weeks on the podcast about, you know, I think we even had listeners' questions saying that, you know, we're going to get any announcements before Celebration. And bizarrely, it wasn't until like really May the 3rd that I was like, oh my God, tomorrow's May the 4th. So when that trailer dropped, I was like, well, of course they're going to drop a trailer on May the 4th. Why should I be surprised by that? But at the same time, I was really surprised because, yeah, it was a nice balance between setting the tone a bit more, at least a little bit further exploration on some of the subject matter we're possibly going to be chewing over and watching, but not really giving a huge amount away. I mean, It seems like they've put a lot of focus on the conflict between Obi-Wan and Owen gives him that great burn about, teaching Luke and not teaching him as well as he did like Anakin and all that. And also Reva, the Inquisitor, she is quite heavily focused, so it'll be interesting to see what they're doing with her, because Star Wars has a tendency, doesn't it, to, if you're going to put somebody front and center in a trailer, and especially if they're not an alien, then there's a good chance they're going to turn in the story. Maybe she starts helping Kenobi out. I didn't really pick up on that per se from the actual content, but it was just like the prominence of her in the trailer that made me kind of go, I wonder if that is possibly going to happen. But Dayu, something which is that underworldy city planet which they go to, which kind of looks really cool. Generally, overall, it just worked. It wasn't a full, what we'd class as a theatrical trailer, but it was more than a teaser trailer. So it was still teasing and it was still tantalizing, but I don't think it gave much away. So it's just obviously just going to help us salivate and get excited about what's going to happen between now and then when we actually get the series in the end of May. I'm really looking forward to it. How about yourself?
Same. Visuals looks amazing. Ewan looks on point. We know the Inquisitor, his sort of MO, and we've seen other Inquisitors in other things, predominantly Rebels, but of course in Fallen Order, which is kind of set at around the same time. And just on that topic, I mean, Ewan McGregor actually mentioned how the books and the comics and the computer games and the TV and film, there has to be that synergy. They all have to link up. He basically praises Jebba Chow and says she really knows her stuff regarding the various media. And he says all the storylines have to match up. You can't have some fact in a video game that doesn't match up to the movie, which really is interesting because he's not saying anything, but he is kind of saying, don't be surprised if a character from, pick a name, Fallen Order turns up, or don't be surprised if a character from Rebels turns up, or one of the books in that era turns up. It's just highlighting, and Disney Gallery, the Book of Boba Fett, Filoni was very much on the same track about how they're very keen to have this one sort of synergized galaxy where all the stories can easily overlap and sort of intertwine. The thing I'm most looking forward to is Owen and Ben. Yeah. You can see the ding-dong starting already, can't you? You can see the needle and just the bit of aggro there. Obviously, Owen's got Luke's best. Yeah, Owen's got the best of intentions. He wants the best for Luke. Ben only wants the best for Luke by protecting him. They're both coming at the same problem from different angles. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out on screen. So yeah, very, very much looking forward to it. It was very, very well played.
We were left with both arty but very teasery shots of Vader being plugged in and getting ready to go, which as a casual Star Wars fan and as like somebody who's helped dress numerous Vaders in many events over years, never would have thought that chest box actually plugs into him like that. It's a great visual, but also it's just somebody from that design team's gone, well, it's not just Velcroed on him or attached somehow, it's actually part of him. It is almost like taking that extra step further in that whole line of, he's more machine now than man. You could almost say that is probably, I guess, his heart in some respects, so we got what we got from Vader, but we didn't get any more. I really hope that whatever episode it is, be it the first one or the last one, and that's the first time we get to see Vader in this limited series rather than something in a trailer or even something at Celebration or something like that. So that's my hope.
Hi, this is George Mann, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Book of Boba Fett had its gallery episode launch on May the 4th. What did you make of that? How did that kind of compare to the other ones that we've had?
Different. I mean, obviously the first gallery for season 1, Mando showed us so much stuff. Yeah. And the season 2 one was the one episode, and then they sort of did a special edition, if you like, when they showed you the Hamill stuff from the final episode, which was great. They don't show you too much about how the sausage is made, but they give you enough that you kind of know, enough for people like you and me to talk about things on a podcast, Yeah. But that being said, this was interesting. I mean, it's a show that did fantastically well, but it does kind of feel like it came and went really quickly. It's maybe not as respected and loved as much as Mandalorian, but there are certain elements of that show that were really strong. There was one thing that really jumped out at me when Doug Chang was talking about the N1 and they were talking about various characters being created, like Cad Bane coming from the Clone Wars. They mentioned Black Chrysanthemum, and there was no mention of him coming from the comics, which given that Filoni was talking about that synergy, like we just mentioned Ewan talking about video games and such, it really surprised me that they didn't leap on that and go, and here's a character created in a 2015 Darth Vader comic that we thought would be awesome in this storyline, and hit and show him in situ in the comics and show that progression from the comic page to the live action. They didn't do any of that, or at least it didn't come across like that to me. It just looked like, if you didn't know any better, you'd assume Chrysanthemum was created purely for the Book of Boba Fett, and he wasn't.
Yeah, no,
it's been in the comics for years.
Actually, that is a really interesting observation. You're right, it kind of skirted over it a little bit. And I mean, what was interesting, they were kind of talking about how they wanted a Wookiee that looked nothing like Chewbacca, and, you know, the kids weren't going to get kind of confused in that. And I mean, obviously, because I'm an adult and I can tell the difference between two Wookiees, I was just like, how could you ever get them confused? But I suppose, potentially, yes, this is coming from a guy who wears a Boba Fett costume next to like a yellow and red Mandalorian, and they get called Boba Fett and I'm just ignored. So, you know, it's amazing what the public actually kind of latch onto.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is an interesting point. I mean, the one thing for me that I think, and I'd have to even go back to re-listen to our Book of Boba Fett reaction chats, I was actually surprised that they had Mark Hamill on set doing all that stuff for the episode. I genuinely thought that they probably would get Mark in for that end of season 2 of Mandalorian. They use him for what they need him for technically, and then also there's a little bit of press PR there. But then that would be it. And that from then, you know, this point forward, it would just be the younger stand-in actor, and then maybe some voice doubling or some AI voice stuff with Reese Beecher. And actually Mark
which they didn't mention, did they?
No, which they didn't mention. To actually see Mark on set for that whole filming really pleased me. And obviously it did surprise me. Just because I was just like, oh, that's so awesome, because it gives it that extra sense of authenticity, I think, about it. And I know we had talked about it on episode before. You know, there were some shots that wasn't quite selling it as, you know, the CG and stuff like that. But now knowing that Mark was on set makes it kind of just work even better for me. The gallery episodes are really interesting. And obviously for me, who's very much into kind of process and, you know, how the cookie's made, I'm always going to watch them. But I almost felt like there was a little bit of this episode anyway, whereby they were trying to justify and sell maybe some of the points that maybe didn't kind of land quite so well. And this is possibly why the gallery doesn't come out immediately, you know, straight away. They kind of skirted over the whole kind of mods and the whole design process really quickly. Yeah. I mean, it was in there, but it was blinking. And by the time you look back up, you know, they moved on. I'm really happy that they're doing this. And I hope that they continue to do this for Kenobi and for Ahsoka and for every other show that comes down the pipe.
I'm Anthony Daniels, and you are listening to Fantha Tracks. Well done.
Today they announced that Ahsoka has gone in front of the cameras, so no time frame on when it's coming out. Hopefully with Celebration ahead of us, we'll hear something and get some sense of it. And also I just thought it was cute that today is Rosario Dawson's birthday. So what a birthday present to start shooting your show on your birthday. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool. I mean, I hope she gets a cake, an orange and blue and white cake. The photo that Star Wars put out on their Twitter is the Ahsoka director's chair with a very Dave Filoni-esque cowboy hat hanging off of the side. So I'm guessing he's out directing Rosario this episode. Can't really see much else from that other than a bit of a digital video village going on in the background. But I'm going to assume that for the majority of this will probably be like The Mandalorian, and it will probably be a lot of volume and stagecraft tech going into creating hopefully what's going to be an awesome series.
This is Steve Bloom, voice of Zeb Aurelios, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks. Caravast. May the Force be with you.
So Star Wars Celebration, it's only a couple of weeks away, and attending as they always do is Rancho Obi-Wan. Spoke earlier to Steve Sansweet and Ann Neumann from Rancho, all about what they're bringing to Celebration, and also the Rancho Gala later on in the year, and a few other things. So, on today's episode of Making Tracks, I'm joined by Steve Sansweet and Ann Neumann from Rancho Obi-Wan. We're going to talk about all things Star Wars Celebration Anaheim and other good stuff. Steve, Ann, how you doing?
Really good. Ann's got to run, so she wants to say hello and answer some of your initial questions.
Yep. Hi.
Hi, Ann.
Ann's really been the point person on this Celebration exhibit, and it's going to be huge. Huge.
So what can you tell us? I mean, we're still 2 weeks out as we speak, so obviously you want to keep a lid on... Oh, no. Panic. You want to keep the lid on things, but what can you tell us so far?
Mandalorians.
And Boba Fett.
Ooh.
And Jango Fett. And Bo-Katan. You name it, we've got it.
I'm sensing a focus here.
There's a real focus. Plus, we've got enough area that we're doing a couple of other things. You want to tell us what the other things are, Anne?
Yeah, we've got 4 other smaller little cases. One is going to be the history of Star Tots, and the other will be Rancho Obi-Wan's 10th anniversary. Duncan Jenkins is doing a What's in a Name exhibit. So a lot of the name changes over the years for characters and missed names on collectibles. It's really kind of fun stuff. And then I'm doing an art piece with Grogu.
She calls it Grogu in Ombre.
Yeah, Cascading Grogu and Ombre.
Which we're all looking forward to seeing, and Anne is trying to think now that she's named it what it actually is.
Right, I'm looking forward to seeing it too.
One of those things that will come together or won't.
Yes, exactly.
Are you on schedule? Are you ahead of schedule? Obviously, I know, Anne, you've got to shoot to crack on and get stuff done, but are you pretty much where you need to be, or are you always chasing your tail?
I don't know. It could be and it could not be. Hard to tell.
Brilliant. Well, we'll let you carry on because I can tell you've got loads to do.
Okay, nice to talk to you guys.
So, Steve, we're 2 years past when we should have done Celebration. The whole world got turned upside down and shook around a little bit. Give us a sense of where we are with Rancho and how things are with you. Where's 2022 finding Steve and Rancho?
Well, we're finally reopened to tours, and we started tours in April after being closed for 2 full years. We've booked a lot, so it's been really, really going well. We've done some extra special tours. We had 2 members and associates of Jefferson Starship here on a Sunday.
And wow.
And we took a photo of them holding up the single from the holiday special that Jefferson Starship appeared on. We didn't have Grace Slick, but...
Don't you find that the holiday special still gets a lot of love?
Well, Disney is doing holiday special characters as plush. I mean, holiday special has come back strong.
And how is it doing that tour again then? Because you've not done one for a couple of years. It's not repetitive because I know every tour is different, but you get into the rhythm of doing a tour. How has it been stepping back into it after a little break?
Well, I'm not doing most of the tours. The docents are. I have some physical problems that really prevent me from walking or standing for more than 45 minutes to an hour. So I can do partial tours. But getting back into it, we've had docents doing practice tours and asking me questions. And the tours are based on the tours that I did. Yeah. And I'll be doing some half tours. We're having tours before Celebration during the week and after Celebration during the week. And those have been pretty popular because people for the first time are over in the States and they're down in Los Angeles and they're coming up to San Francisco area to have a tour of Rancho. And Celebration will be the crowning achievement of the year.
You've always had a fascinating exhibit. I know some of the guys here have helped you set them up in days past.
Well, our biggest exhibit so far was in Chicago when we had 900 square feet of space plus another 900 of line-controlled space. This year, we have our own room that is 6,000 square feet.
Whoa!
Talk about an increase.
That's incredible.
Part of that is the Collector's Lounge. We're on the same floor as one of the smaller Celebration stages and the Collector's Track. We're on the 3rd floor, so we've got a lot of collector goodness up there. So the Collector's Track has some amazing panels and the giveaway of the Star Tots, just all kinds of cool stuff. And we've got the Collector's Lounge, and in the Collector's Lounge there will be a raffle for Rancho Obi-Wan that will have some of the swag that people are putting together and groups are putting together that you'll be able to bid on, because there are like multiple people and organizations that have puzzle patches and just all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, it's amazing. Each celebration, the swag gets more and more elaborate. And some of that will be up for raffle for Rancho Obi-Wan on Saturday afternoon. And what we've done because of the increased space is Rancho Obi-Wan is presenting the Saga Museum. It's a collaboration featuring treasures from the collections of Gus Lopez, Duncan Jenkins, and Lisa Stevens and Vic Wirtz. Got a huge amount of things to select from, so we've cherry-picked everybody's collection and really focused on what everybody has been excited about, The Mandalorian, Boba Fett. These folks are all members of our board of directors. So Gus, Duncan, and Lisa, and Vic is ex officio. So every collection is different because every collector is different. And we've got this wonderful collaboration, and we're calling it Boba Fett to Bo-Katan, the evolution of the Mandalorians. And now I understand there are some questions about whether Boba Fett is a Mandalorian or whether he wears the Mandalorian armor, but we're exploring all of the creative touch points from 1978 to today as shown in Star Wars memorabilia from all 4 of our collections. So it's very exciting.
And later on in the summer, we've got the return of the Rancho Obi-Wan gala. Can you tell us anything about that?
The 20th of August will be our first in-person gala in 3 years. We're going to have all kinds of entertainment, our live auction with one-of-a-kind objects, things from the Rancho Obi-Wan duplicate collection. We'll have special guests and some live entertainment, games, and, of course, a wonderful meal. Probably have Skywalker wine tasting. We're pulling that all together. We're really waiting until Celebration is packed up and back here before we really go into the details of that. But we're really looking forward to being able to get together with 120 to 150 of our closest friends and members of Rancho Obi-Wan, because it's been a long time. We did a small event at a restaurant at the Presidio where Lucasfilm's headquarters is. Yeah. And the restaurant is now owned by Skywalker Properties, which is George Lucas. And we did an event the other night on May the 5th. So it was wine tasting, tiki cocktails, and Star Wars. So there was a pop-up general store, a Lucasfilm general store, and we had some merchandise from Rancho Obi-Wan as well as an auction, raffle rather. So it was really cool.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
Can't wait for Celebration, obviously. Really can't wait for the gala because, like you say, it's been, I think it's 4 years since I got to the last one, so I'm desperate to get back over, so can't wait for that.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have things ranging from prototype that was approved by Lucasfilm of the Don Post full-size Boba Fett figure from the mid-90s to both main versions of the rocket-firing Boba Fett action figure from Kenner, which probably has really helped to cement the popularity of Boba Fett and get collectors and kids to know who Boba Fett was from the beginning.
Yeah.
So we're going to go from Boba Fett's first appearance, which was at a parade in San Anselmo, where George lived, the San Anselmo or Marin Country Fair, and Boba Fett in costume marched along with Darth Vader. People thought, well, that's really cool. They didn't know who that was. And then that was in like September of 1978. And in November, we had the Star Wars Holiday Special where we saw Boba Fett in the 10-minute animated special from Nelvana, which later did the Droids and Ewoks animated series. And then, of course, we finally saw Boba Fett as a live-action bounty hunter, the fierce bounty hunter in The Empire Strikes Back. Since then, of course, we've seen him in Star Wars because he was added in the special editions and in Return of the Jedi briefly, but somehow he managed to escape the Sarlacc pit.
I think he took a bucket and spade with him and hid them down there and just dug his way out. That's my headcanon.
Yeah, it just took him a little bit, a little bit of time. But then again, the Sarlacc had 1,000 years to digest him, so it went very slowly.
Yeah, no rush. Of the stuff that's been presented to us on Disney Plus and anywhere else, what's lighting you up at the moment?
Well, a friend of mine just spent some time with his family down at the new hotel at Walt Disney World, the Halcyon. Managed to buy one or two little things for me.
Nice.
So that's all coming this week in 5 different cartons. So I'm looking forward to tearing those boxes open. The new action figures as they come out, the comics, I'm keeping up on them. There's just so much stuff out there. It's incredible.
It never stops. Thankfully, it never stops.
No, I think it's more than ever.
Anything on the horizon that you're looking forward to that's coming up from the Star Wars galaxy?
There's a little show called I think it's called Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obviously, Obi-Wan is my favorite character. Rancho Obi-Wan is named after him. He's the mentor figure in Star Wars and the mentor figure in my life. And I am so looking forward to seeing Ewan back as Obi-Wan. He seems very excited about it. I am really, really looking forward to this limited series, and I hope there's room for it if it's successful to go beyond and another limited series. This is going to be very special. And then I see the Ahsoka live action series is starting to record. They're starting to shoot it. I think they made that announcement yesterday or this morning. So there's lots of great stuff coming up and good people running things. So I think we've got a lot of things to choose from the books and the comics. I mean, Dark Horse is getting back into Star Wars comics, and we'll probably have Legends from them, and they do that so well. I'm looking forward to that. And all of the crazy products that are coming out. I mean, would you like to have Darth Vader toast or Boba Fett pancakes for breakfast?
I'll take them both.
Okay. You're a glutton, Mark. Well, we want to invite everybody to our display who is coming to Celebration. 3rd floor. You won't be sorry that you made it up there and spent some time walking through the exhibit. And if you're a member of Rancho Obi-Wan, you get a light speed pass, so you can just walk right into the exhibit. We'll have some special Celebration merchandise for sale. We'll have our spinning wheel, which was so popular at Celebration Chicago, where you pay $5 for a spin, and you can win some great prizes from the duplicate collection of Rancho Obi-Wan. If you spin number 1, then you get a super nice prize. If you spin number 5, then you get one of our booby prizes. The booby prize at Celebration Chicago was a Star Trek toy. Not that we don't like Star Trek. And the booby prize at this celebration, at Celebration Anaheim, is an E.T. toy. Not that we don't like E.T. And E.T., of course, is part of Episode 1, Senator Grievous.
I'll definitely be giving that a spin. I like E.T., so I'm aiming for number 5, I'll be honest.
And then we're going to have a raffle. We've got a beautiful hand-knitted throw of a Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan and a signed first edition hardback of the Star Wars novelization signed by George Lucas.
Wow.
So lots of cool stuff coming up and lots of ways to enjoy Star Wars. So we're very excited and looking forward to seeing you again, my friend.
Absolutely. Well, we'll definitely be swinging by to say hello and look forward to the gala, of course, and happy 10th anniversary. Got to say that as well.
Thank you very much, Mark. Take care.
So speaking at last weekend's Imperial Commissary Collectors Convention in Nashville, McDiarmid was on stage and he was asked about any potential future appearances for the Emperor, and he gave a great quote. "There's a certain show coming soon set right around the time I may have considered to be very active. Whether or not you will see my physical body I cannot comment on, but you will certainly feel my presence." What do you think of that? Do you think he's referring to Kenobi? Do you think he's referring to Andor? Do you think maybe he's referring to both? Could it be Bad Batch Season 2? What do you think he's talking about?
To be honest, it could be all of them. I wonder if, from a purist perspective, and maybe even if this is a conversation they have in Lucasfilm, I don't know, but maybe how the original trilogy revealed the Emperor, even though I know we've got the prequel trilogy now, but I just wonder if maybe they're going to keep him off screen. And so, yes, you might see him in a hologram, but maybe you don't see him until Return of the Jedi. It would be fantastic to see him in Kenobi, and it would make sense, potentially, although I kind of get the feeling that there's going to be a lot of Vader and Inquisitors. So, but again, all we need is a giant 20-foot floating head of him, and you've got Vader kneeling in front of him. For something like the Bad Batch, I feel like potentially you could have more of an address.
I mean, they did have the speech from Revenge of the Sith in Bad Batch, didn't they?
Exactly.
In the first episode, yeah.
Be cool to maybe get new content from him.
Yeah.
You know, if he's coming in to do like a bit of voice work for one series, then fit him in a couple of extra hours and get him to do some extra lines with that. And again, same with Andor. I mean, in this period, you want the Emperor to be that puppet master, really. And I think you want to maybe see the influence and the manipulation of Vader by the Emperor, but I don't necessarily think you need to see him doing the whole Mr. Burns kind of like good kind of thing. You know, like he says, like his Father Christmas or something. You feel his presence because there's an influence there, but you don't necessarily need to actually have a physical presence and appearance.
you can be quite vague with the Emperor. I mean, you look back to Star Wars and you don't see the Emperor because Lucas hadn't cast him and it wasn't a thing to that degree. And kind of like you said about the big giant head in Empire, which is even bigger in Empire than it was originally when they did the new version, which kind of translates to Force Awakens as well. But, he's a presence there, but not a dominating presence, but he sits over the whole thing. And then Jedi, you finally meet him. And it just makes me think a bit of Lucas in the original trilogy when you saw the Falcon jump to hyperspace. Yeah. And one of the things he said about the prequels was you never see anybody inside the cockpit jump into hyperspace in the prequels because he wanted it so that the first time you jump into hyperspace is in the Falcon in Star Wars. Well, of course, that's all gone out the window now because we're bouncing up and down the timeline and you've got to show it. So it makes no sense to stick to that. Obviously, Lucas would get that himself. But nevertheless, I always think it's a kind of a shame that you hear the Imperial March before Empire Strikes Back. The Imperial March was written for The Empire Strikes Back, and you had Imperial music in A New Hope, and I kind of wish they'd developed that music more going back, but you hear the Imperial March all through the timeline, and I think it's kind of a shame. There's certain things that seep in, like as a kid, you imagine A-Wings became a thing by Jedi, and that they were developed in that time between Empire and Jedi, but you learn that A-Wings were always around, and and now we know U-Wings were always around and everything else was always around. You just didn't see it. Well, that's just as valid as anything else. But there's just a sense of development that kind of gets washed away a little bit when they chuck it in here, there and everywhere. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you can have the Emperor, make addresses or just be a hologram on a screen almost and not necessarily have to go into his office on Coruscant and have a face-to-face scene with him.
Hi, this is John Morton from The Empire Strikes Back, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
So this weekend, many Fanthas were up at Blackburn Football Club, Ewood Park, for Star Wars Fan Fun Day, the first one for 2 years. Great fun. There were 16 guests. We interviewed 10 of them. And the first guest that we're going to hear from is Charlotte Louise. She was in Solo, Rogue One. She was in Rise of Skywalker. Most people will recognise her as Margot, who was part of Dryden Voss's entourage in Solo. We had the chance to sit down with her and have a chat about her career and her time in the Star Wars galaxy. So this is me and Charlotte Louise at Star Wars Fan Fun Day. I'm here with Charlotte Louise. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. It's wonderful to be here again. We've missed it for 2 years with the world going nuts.
Yeah, it's actually so lovely to see everyone's faces. I know no one ever sees my face, but it's nice to actually see other people's faces and be able to come out to an event and socialise and see all the fans doing all their stuff, all the cool costumes here as well, actually today. I feel very underdressed.
So how's it been? Because, well, first off, how many conventions have you done in the past?
So I've done a couple of private signings on and off, and then I was at one a few years ago in Switzerland, and apart from that, this is my first proper one, I think.
So how are you finding it? Because being face-to-face with fans and meeting and chatting and signing autographs and the meal last night, which was nuts, how are you finding it, just interacting with folks?
It's actually really nice because a lot of the stuff goes through social media, and even though you chat to people and you're trying to reply to all your messages, you never really get to see people face to face, and it's really nice just to share little bits about, this makeup took so long and it was like this to wear. Obviously a lot of people think it's uncomfortable. Once it's on, it's sort of a part of you and you forget about it. So I think it's nice for the fans to know things like that. It's not like I was there suffering. It's not an easy job, but obviously the team that you have there really support you, and it's nice to let the fans know that as well, because I think it adds an extra area of interest for them. So
every role you've done, as you say, the makeup on Rise of Skywalker, Solo, which is one that people would be very familiar with, the whole process, do you find it interesting, quite fascinating, the way that your features are translated into this character?
Yeah, I really do. A lot of them, you can see in the moulding, there's certain characteristics of the actual performer in there, which I always find. Same thing happens with the animatronic heads as well a lot of the time, so they always try and keep a little bit of us in there, I think. I love watching it be applied. Normally it's just they're applying one eyelid and I've got the other one open, sort of watching in the mirror, and I was like, I'm not scrutinising, it's just really interesting to me, even after all these years.
And what was the most interesting moment on set? Because, it's a busy place, there's stuff going on left, right, everywhere you turn there's something happening. Was there a moment when you took a step back and thought, wow, I'm on a Star Wars set, this is kind of cool?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, that picture there with Woody Harrelson. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Woody Harrelson as well. Sorry about that. Got a bit of a frog in my throat there, I think.
Thanks for that, Dunny.
Yeah. meeting Woody Harrelson and being on the yacht, the set was so beautiful, and just even you could see like the other supporting artists and their makeup was done. Everything was so perfect, and so much time and work went into that set and the makeup, and it was just amazing to be there. I think that's the point when I sort of stepped back a bit and I was like, okay, it's really happening.
So how did it all come to you? How did it come about in the first place?
So I had a mystery audition, ended up turning up there looking for runway models. So I used to do a lot of runway and commercial and fashion modelling. So I turned up to this mystery shoot and audition, and before I knew it, like Neil Scanlon walks in, we signed our NDAs, and I was like, I think I know what this is. I was like, I'm so glad I had to go for this audition. And then I had another booking afterwards, and I was like, oh my God, I'm really sorry, like, it's lovely to meet you, and I had to rush off, and I was like, there's no way I've got that job. Everyone else stayed behind, and they were chatting and stuff. I was like, oh. And then I got a phone call a couple of weeks later, and I was like, interesting. Basically, I should just run away from all my meetings, and I might get more work.
And did you know that you were going to be okay with all that makeup, or was that just a suck it and see thing?
No, I mean, everyone obviously thinks I'm quite precious, being like a model, and I don't mind. Yeah. Like, it's like being a model is a tough job. You think it's very glamorous and everything. Like, I grew up on a farm. I've got older brothers. Like, I've always been a bit of a tomboy. I mean, I've always loved special effects as well. So it's something. I think I have a very high tolerance for that sort of thing.
Right. Some people get quite claustrophobic in that thing, don't they? But
yeah, I mean, I was a little bit claustrophobic before, but I think having the life cast done, that is. I was like, okay, it's fine. You're in an open pasture. After that, I've had a couple more done, and I was like, don't take it off. It's nice, it's warm, it's quiet in here. Just sit there with your thumb pointing up, and if you're uncomfortable, you put it down. I was like, so I'm just going to stay in this warm plaster spa. Yeah. It's like a strange spa treatment. It's a bit weird the first time when you come in and the walls are covered in plastic, especially when you've just finished watching Dexter.
Oh, right.
And you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just a random carpet rolled up in the corner over there. Don't mind that.
So what's next for you? Where do you move next?
At the moment, I'm just plodding along. I'm in the process of hopefully buying a house soon, so I'm trying to deal with that end of it, just trying to spend some time with my new baby niece, Winter. So I'm actually going to see if I can get her a Yoda hat or something in a minute. She's only one, so I can still dress her up. Yes. And hopefully she'll be coming to these things with me soon and know how weird her auntie is. I think I'm trying to enjoy a bit more family time now. Hopefully some more special effects stuff comes up soon, but it has been a little bit tricky with the pandemic, and obviously everyone's been trying to keep themselves safe, but I think they've been trying to minimise the amount of people on set, etc. So it's been difficult, but I think everyone's working through it, and hopefully we come out the other end of it soon and we can go back to normal.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Lovely to meet you. Thank you.
So with Star Wars Celebration 2022 rapidly approaching, it looks like the main panels are now locked in and the collection track has almost got a complete schedule. So we can now turn our attention to the podcast stage. And if you are a follower of Fan for Tracks news and the website or social media, you will probably know already that Mr. Newbold here is going to be hosting the podcast stage. So Mark, how cool is that? Are you happy to be back?
I'm very happy to be back. Yeah, it's the third time, like you say. I did it in London in 2016 and in Chicago. Didn't do it in Orlando because I was there on a family holiday, and I thought it's a bit cheeky to even ask to do it because I was there with the family.
Shocking.
I've known for ages, and you've known for ages, but I've not been able to say anything to anybody until they tell you can officially mention it. You've got to kind of keep it stum. There's 18 podcasts over 4 days. So there's plenty of shows going on. Making Tracks is on the Saturday, 2 till 3. Yep. We've got 2 confirmed guests coming on the show and hopefully have a third. We'll know a little bit more about that later. Lots of good podcasts on there. And it's going to be a good show because it's Celebration and it's our Super Bowl. So yes, so very pleased to be back.
So obviously with Celebration and stuff like that, especially podcasts and the fan tables, it's well known that a lot of them have some kind of swag and giveaways and freebies and stuff. So have you got anything that you'll be giving out on the podcast stage?
There will be. We've had a series of badges made, or buttons even. They're 2.5-inch badges. So there's a Making Tracks badge, which you will definitely like very much with the Celebration logo on it. Start Your Engines, Desert Planet Discs, Cannon Fodder, and then there's a general Fantha Tracks badge with the Fantha Tracks logo that everybody knows, with Celebration logo at the bottom. So they're all there. So if you come to the show, if you come to see Making Tracks live, it is a bit of a mishmash of a show. There's a little bit of Start Your Engines, a little bit of Cannon Fodder, a little bit of Desert Planet, as well as Making Tracks, because there's hosts from all the shows on that hour-long slot that we've got. So you will basically walk away with a pin. You just take your pick, whether you want Making Tracks, Cannon Fodder, Start Your Engines, or Desert Planet, or a generic Fantha Tracks one, of course. You can pick one of those. Got to be in the room to get it, or if you're on the show floor and you see somebody in the Fantha Tracks shirt, tap them on the shoulder and say, "Can I have a badge, please?" And you'll probably get one.
But don't give them all away, because I want a set.
I've already put your set to one side, mate.
Well, thank you very much for listening to episode 136 of Making Tracks. We will be back next week, and hopefully we will have some listeners' questions. I know for a fact we have a couple locked and loaded for next week. But if you are a new listener and you would like to send in your own question, thought, or theory or complaint, then Mr. Newbold, can you let them know how they can get in touch?
I certainly can. If you want to be part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit fanthatracks.com or check out the free Fantha Tracks app through the App Store to follow us on your mobile device. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fanthatracks.com. Comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Fantha Tracks intro, Adam O'Brien for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Remember, tune in to Good Morning Tatooine. It's live Sunday evenings, 9 o'clock UK, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on Facebook and YouTube. We didn't have one last week because we were all at Star Wars Fan Fun Day. And check out Fantha Tracks Radio Fridays at 7 o'clock UK for new episodes of the Fantha from Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, and Cannon Fodder. And that's me done for this episode.
Awesome. And that's me done for this episode as well. Dude, you look after yourself and everybody else. Have a fantastic Star Wars week. Take care, stay safe, and of course, may the Force be with ye.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's another episode of Making Tracks.
With ye.